Welcome back to the program. Let's bring in the Shadow Cabinet Secretary Andrew Wallace. And this week, second week of the Parliament, focus on energy. Are you comfortable with that? I heard what Dan Tehan had to say at the news conference with Susan Lee, trying to shift the focus back to the government, but the challenge for the coalition has been there's so much internal focus over the last week or so.
Well, Dan has been asked to lead a review alongside Ted O'Brien to formulate our position on net zero. So that process will go through the usual measure. Ultimately, it'll come back to the party room and the party will make a decision on it. But that's the same as any other of our policies. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is ensure that we have reliable baseload power that is dispatchable and that it's affordable for Australians, because that's the biggest issue for Australians, and particularly small businesses that are doing it really tough right now. They can't get reliable, economical power.
I know that there are strong views in the coalition on either side, and certainly those advocating scrapping it have been the loudest, including Barnaby Joyce, who was on this program just in the last half hour. But you would admit that there are many within the Liberal Party who also want to stick with the net zero target and with strong action on climate change.
Well, that's the beauty of our side of politics. We can have a backbencher that can bring a private member's bill or a private senator's bill. We don't automatically disendorse them like the Labor Party does. We believe in freedom of speech for our backbenchers, and that's very important to them, and it's very important to us. Has been that way for many years. On
the Middle East, you, and as you can see on your lapel there, that you are a strong friend of Israel. I've spoken to Greg Sheridan on this program, and he's worried about not just the impact on the people of Gaza right now, but on Israel itself, that the current developments in Gaza are not reflecting well on Israel, given the starvation that we're seeing there. Donald Trump saying that, even Donald Trump, a very good friend of Netanyahu at an international level, says that it looks like real starvation to him. As a friend of Israel, how do you feel when you see the developments unfolding right now? Obviously, we know that it was Hamas that started this thing on October 7.
Yep.
They still hold hostages.
Yep.
But do you worry about this at a humanitarian level, but also in terms of the image of Israel internationally?
Well, Kieran, one of the reasons I went to Israel in December of 2023 was because I knew that there would be people who would say, the atrocities never took place on the 7th of October. It's all overblown, in the same way that there are people who try and argue that the Holocaust never happened. So I've been there. I've seen with my own eyes. I've seen the first-hand reports from people who lived through October 7. I've seen the videos, the body cam videos of what those Hamas terrorists did in the killing of 1,200 innocent Israelis, the raping of women, and the taking of 250 hostages. I've seen that. I've also seen the images of what's going on in Gaza. And no one, and you and I spoke about this last week, no parent could see that image of the father cradling their dead child. No one could look at that and say, well, that's okay. It's a human tragedy, what is going on in Gaza at the moment. But there is more to this than meets the eye. We know that Hamas, for example, are hijacking the aid that comes in to Gaza. They're selling it at exorbitant prices to civilians in Gaza. So Israel, I think, has rightly seen that they've got to get that aid flowing more freely into Gaza. They are taking steps to correct that. But the real problem, it remains Hamas, because as you just said, the war could be over today if Hamas lay down their weapons and return the hostages. And look, Israel has got a lot of work to do in where to from here.
Yeah. And you would know, having spent time there are many in Israel, not the least of which former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. He wasn't a Labor Prime Minister. He wasn't a Prime Minister of the left. He was a Likud Prime Minister of the right, who's been scathing in terms of his analysis of the Netanyahu government and some of the cabinet ministers and their approach to this. So there is very strong criticism of Netanyahu from within Israel itself.
Yeah, look,
and through the democracy that it is and through its free media.
That's right. And the opportunity for Israelis to differ from and push back against their own government. I mean, they are a democracy. They're the only democracy in the Middle East. We've seen that from years before the October 7 with the judicial strife that they had and the changes of the judiciary. That Israelis are a very proud democratic people who value those democratic rights, and they're not afraid to speak up against their own government.
Are you worried this reflects poorly on that democracy, though? Given how they obviously have much greater standards, moral benchmarks than the terrorist group that carried out the atrocities on October 7. They should be judged at a higher level because they are the only democracy in the region. Do you agree? Do you agree that this would reflect poorly on that country?
I don't think that by being a democracy you have a higher standard of ensuring human rights are protected than anybody else, because by the very nature of that statement, it would suggest that if you're not a democracy, you can get away with...
No, but people would expect more from a democracy than they would a terrorist group.
Well, look, I know from having been in Israel that the IDF do their absolute level best to ensure that civilians aren't killed. Now, unfortunately, it is a war zone and people have been killed. But just as the ADF does, as the IDF does, they do take very, very careful steps to ensure that the civilian population are impacted as little as humanly possible. When you look at what has happened in Gaza, it is an absolute human catastrophe. But, look, Israel's got a lot of work to do, but where to from here? What is the plan from here? That's what Israel needs to be working on.
It sure does. There's no doubt about it. And it is a catastrophe at every level. Andrew Wallace, thank you.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.